where people are? Do people feel like the 49ers have been unfair to Trey Lance? Do you think people feel that way? That the 49ers, like, it's one thing if some media person that, and maybe that's us on certain days, I don't know, but a media person, you don't like what was said or the way it was said, or I know Michael Lombardi's quote.
Well, that was
yesterday.
I didn't like that.
I didn't either. I don't even understand it, to be honest with you, and we'll let you know what it was here in just a second. But what about the team? Do you think the team has been unfair to Trey Lance in some sort of a way?
I don't. I think he's faced some unfair circumstances, mainly because of injury during his time with the 49ers. I will say this, though. I do think there is a small percentage of 49er fans, larger maybe on social media, that believes that the 49ers haven't been fair to Trey Lance. Like, I do think that exists. I think it sometimes feels like it's a higher percentage than it actually is via social media, but it exists.
Yeah. 888-957-9570. Afternoon, everybody. How are we all doing? Xfinity Mobile text line's there for you. We'd love to hear from you. 888-957-9570. And hello, Twitch and YouTube, powered by First NorCal Credit Union, which, JD, if you're on YouTube, just left for 1 second because you forgot your little mic cover, but now you're back.
Yeah, just
you're
ready
back.
to roll.
Yeah,
I always forget something in the slide, the 4-foot slide.
It's quick, man. It's the electric slide. Yeah, and it's hard to remember all of the moves. There's no doubt. I look at his situation, and I can fully understand the frustration. But, and maybe this is partially because I'm sort of, I don't like the word. I don't love the word unfair. Because when you're a parent, you hear it all the time. It's not fair. And one of the things I try to teach him is, yeah, it is, / there's no such thing. Every experience is different. Every journey is different. Every career is different. If Trey Lance's injuries are not fair, then neither are Brock Purdy's and Jimmy Garoppolo's. And so that's why I sometimes hear a different tone around things. Let's take that, for example. Jimmy Garoppolo was injury prone and can't stay healthy. And Trey Lance is, well, this is unfair. I mean, he hasn't been healthy. Well, so which is it? I don't know. I just know that, like I said a few minutes ago with the whole CNN and Fox thing, this is the dynamic I've noticed. I've noticed that what the 49er quarterback situation has become is people pick one and then go seek out the information / excuses that make that quarterback sound better than he is, as opposed to what I thought everybody was supposed to do here, which is show up, root for the 49ers, unless you're not a 49er fan, look at it however you want, but pull for your team, and like every other position in every other sport, every other year, all the time, every year, whoever plays well and is the best, they get the gig. That's all I'm asking for.
And honestly, that's what's going to happen. It's already happened. I think that's how the 49ers are going to handle it, which ultimately is all that matters. Like, we're going to talk about it today. We've talked about it the last couple of days. We're going to continue to talk about it for the next 3 weeks. It's all right.
That's my error. That's my error. That was
what
an elbow.
Was that?
That was an elbow bump. That was like when you butt dial someone, but I did it with the soundboard instead. I don't even hear what it was. What drop
was that?
I don't know.
Pool?
I don't
was
even
he say pool?
I don't even know if I could redo it.
You caught me off guard. I got no clue.
It sounded like pool. I don't know.
That was weird. Anyway, you were saying. Sorry about that.
I don't even remember what I was saying now. How about that?
Yeah, I don't know. But anyway, I do wonder genuinely if that's how some of you feel. And we'll take your calls on it. 888-957-9570. You think the 49ers have been unfair to Trey Lance? And I know I guess some people will immediately go to, well, he's only started 4 games. Well, right. But I think, as you just pointed out, if you wanted him to start more games, explain to us how exactly you would have done that. And if you did do that, right, last year his body was not going to allow him to start more than 2. The year before that, it was a combination of his body and that he wasn't the starter that prevented him from starting any more than that. And this year, you would have him start. You would like he has not earned that. So I get that 4 starts is abnormal, not what we would have expected. A bummer, however you want to say it. But I would submit to you that if he started more than that, that's unfair.
Brock Purdy changed the conversation with the way that he played at the end of last season and in the playoffs. That's all it is. If Brock Purdy had been Nick Mullins or C.J. Beathard over the time that he played and the 49ers eked into the playoffs and then got eliminated or whatever, even won a game and lost and he was bad and never made it to the NFC Championship game, if that had happened, Trey Lance probably would have been reinstalled as the number 1 quarterback going into this season, assuming that he was healthy.
Right.
Now, would there have been a competition? Probably not. Would there have been a different veteran backup brought in as insurance? Probably.
The Sam Darnold thing feels like it would have happened anyway, in other words.
And I wholeheartedly agree with that.
Yep.
But I do think there wouldn't necessarily be a competition between the two as far as who's going to start. I think at that point, Trey would have gotten that opportunity, and if he had not performed, then maybe you go to Sam Darnold after 5 to 7 games, which I think is exactly what was in play a year ago.
Last year, yeah.
Garoppolo was brought back to be the backup, but Garoppolo wasn't brought back to like Trey was not. Again, people don't like when I say this, but Trey was not going to get 10 games if they were 2-3, 3-4.
No,
he was not.
Well, this is why
there was too much on the line.
I don't want to say it bothered me because it didn't bother me at all. I felt like I understood it when that happened, the Jimmy G re-signing, and you remember the whole debate. The whole debate was whether or not this was just opportunistic and smart because you can this was my favorite line that some of you used, where you can never have too many good QBs. Oh, yeah, you can. Oh, yeah, you can. And here's why. There is a pecking order. And if you are truly sold on a player, I'll give you an example. I was working in San Diego when Phillip Rivers publicly, before the draft, the Chargers had the number 7 pick in the draft, and Phillip was getting old. And he was asked, how would you feel if the Chargers drafted a quarterback with the number 7 overall pick? Well, I don't like that at all, daggum. And he was public with it. Because you don't flank your franchise quarterback. You don't put someone who's got a lot of weight on that shoulder. You don't do that in professional sports. You don't put someone's replacement right behind them if you've got full faith. Now, some people will respond to that and say, see, they should have shown that faith to Trey. No, you have to earn that faith. And my contention was he didn't earn it. And that's why they brought him back, because they weren't feeling confident. I don't think they ever have. They were in a spot last year. Yeah, they were really in a spot. I mean, now knowing what Brock Purdy is, he probably would have ended up playing even if everybody had stayed healthy. Or there's a scenario at least where that had happened.
I think he would have. I think he would have ended up playing because I don't know if everybody's healthy.
In other words, what if Jimmy was on the Commanders?
Right, and Brock won
the backup job.
Yeah, he would have played. Especially if what we now know about how Kyle Shanahan or how the team had felt about him and how Kyle Shanahan felt about him even in last year's training camp. Like, wow, this kid's pretty good. I mean, we talked about it yesterday. Was it the Tim Kawakami podcast interview? We went back and we played the sound, and it was...
Dude, that was earth-shattering.
Wait a minute.
That was earth-shattering to me.
Is he saying that he thought Brock was better than Trey last year, but he was still going to give Trey the benefit of the doubt as the player that they had invested in because Brock hadn't actually done anything in game?
Yeah, we'll pull that back up for you and play it for you again if you weren't with us yesterday, but it sounds like that's exactly what he was saying. In other words, Kyle Shanahan sort of admitting that last August, my eyes are telling me that Brock Purdy's better, but I don't have... I and he don't have the resume yet to do anything about that until all these guys play football games.
No doubt. And
that's what he was saying.
Knowing that, Brock Purdy absolutely would have played last year if he had been the backup and Jimmy Garoppolo had been on another team.
Seems likely to me.
Due to, again, in my mind, due to Trey being ineffective.
Yeah, this is about quarterbacking. That's one message I'd like to put out there.
Now, would the leash have been longer for Trey
Maybe.
if Purdy had been the backup?
Maybe.
I would say, yeah, probably. Maybe it would have been closer to 7 than 4 games. But with Jimmy, that wasn't going to be the case. And again, every time I say it, I'll stop reiterating that. But every time I say it, people crush me for saying, oh, how do you know Trey would have been? It was already going down that path when they lost to Chicago. That was
going down that path the second that they brought him back.
Horrendous loss.
Yeah. It was going down that road the second they brought him back. I just think that's important. That's important. And I know some of you will disagree with me. This is about quarterbacking. It's not about anything else.
And before anybody, because I know people are out there probably thinking it, but before anybody says it, the Niners can lose to Pittsburgh and Brock Purdy can play badly, and we're not going to be having the same conversation.
And he's starting week 2.
We're not going to be having the same conversation.
No. But let's have the conversation. 888-957-9570. Do you think the 49ers have in some way been unfair to Trey Lance? Let's go to Lamar in San Jose. Hey, Lamar, you're on with Willard. JD's in for dibs all week. What's up, Lamar?
Hello, hey, how you doing?
Good, man. You?
I don't think doing well. Driving to work, sorry for you out. A Lamborghini in front of me.
Not bad.
But the Niners have not. To me, no, the Niners have not been unfair to Trey Lance. I think the circumstances, whether it's what they've seen on the practice field, whether it's his injuries, they have predicted where he's at on the depth chart as of now, and Brock Purdy's played. Like, you can't deny what Brock Purdy did in those 8 games. However, I do think some of the media coverage of Trey Lance has been a little unfair because he hasn't really even played 3 games together consistently. Like, people keep bringing, he's played 4 games, and I get that, but he hasn't played 4 games consistently to where you really get to see him in the rhythm. Like, even in the preseason game, he looked uncomfortable and somewhat like he was thinking in the first quarter, and then the second quarter, or towards the end of the second quarter, he started to look like he was just processing and letting it rip. And he made mistakes during that drive as well, but you could just see the difference in comfort level. And we haven't seen him play comfortable. Now, I will say Brock Purdy came in comfortable, but being Mr. Irrelevant comes with no pressure. And so he obviously, it's like he's playing with house money.
Well, Lamar, yes and no. I think it's a good call. I would add, we do that sometimes based on our own sort of view. Oh, Brock Purdy had no pressure. Brock felt pressure. Brock has a life too. Just because he was drafted in the 7th round does not mean he did not have aspirations and dreams of being a quarterback in the NFL. And when you get your shot, that's pressure. You have got to make good on it, or else you remain a 3rd-string quarterback. So Brock had plenty of pressure. He was overtaking a team that was in the middle of a playoff run, and he had a goal to keep it going. And my God, he sure did.